Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uthapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajevam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamine Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadhi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I think there are some technical problems still as far as the internet is concerned, but regardless, I think we can get going, because I think it is already 8:45 Eastern. So I'll go for about 30 minutes as the schedule read, and then I'll pass on the mic back to the devotees at Charlotte so that you all can continue the schedule. But before I begin, I want to prostrate myself a million times at the lotus feet of Abhay Charana Aravinda, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, because of whose endeavor we are celebrating the most auspicious occasion of Krishna Janmashtami. Had it not been for Srila Prabhupada, whose appearance we are going to celebrate tomorrow, I think probably none of us would be here hearing and performing kirtan and doing abhishek of the Supreme Lord. So I prostrate myself a million times at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Secondly, I thank the devotees of ISKCON Charlotte for very kindly assembling at one place. Even though the video was on momentarily, I could see that quite a few devotees are assembled in the center in the ISKCON temple. So I thank all the devotees for very kindly being here. I would like to thank Sureshwar Prabhuji for inviting me, Lalitangi Radha Mataji for very kindly inviting me in your Sangha. And lastly, to all the assembled devotees there, I offer my very humble obeisances. Please bless me, please pray for me so that I can speak some favorable words in the glorification of the most supreme personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Please accept my very humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarobhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So I know it's a very difficult day, even as far as speaker, and it's more difficult as far as the audience are concerned, because it's a working day. It's not a weekend, it's a working day. All of us would have been busy in meetings, multiple meetings, and to add to it, all of us probably are doing nirjal. So the stomach is already hungry, and when the stomach is really hungry, it's very difficult to concentrate. So I very well know it's very difficult to concentrate, but if possible, I would request the devotees to give me all your attention for the next 30 minutes, not more, I promise, just for the next 30 minutes. We will try to discuss a few unheard pastimes of the Supreme Lord. We see Srila Prabhupada has given so many pastimes in the Krishna book and the Srimad Bhagavatam. But apart from that, also our Shastras give many unheard sweet pastimes of Krishna in the land of Vrindavan. So we will try to touch on those aspects to the best of our ability. Of course, time is always a constraint, but I will try my level best to discuss some of these pastimes. So there is a personality in Krishna's pastimes by the name Gargacharya. Now the question arises, who is Gargacharya? Well, Gargacharya is the family priest of Vasudeva Maharaj. We know Vasudeva and Devaki, they are the biological parents of Sri Krishna. And Vasudeva and Devaki are imprisoned in the jail. And Gargacharya is their family priest. And now, as we know, as the whole story unfolds, Krishna on this night was taken by Vasudeva Maharaj across the Jamuna to the land of Vrindavan, and he was handed over to Nanda and Yashoda. So Gargacharya, who's the family priest, was called by Vasudeva Maharaj. Vasudeva Maharaj called Gargacharya. So Gargacharya came and he inquired from Vasudeva Maharaj as to how he can serve Vasudeva Maharaj. So Vasudeva Maharaj, he said that, "Oh Gargacharya, my two children, that is Krishna and Balaram." We see it's not just Krishna who is the son of Vasudeva Maharaj, Balaram is also the son of Vasudeva Maharaj. So he told Gargacharya that my two sons are there in the land of Vrindavan and they have not been named yet. They are nameless. As of now, they have not been named. So can you please go to the land of Vrindavan and name these two boys? Because they have not been given name and Nanda Maharaj has not conducted this samskar of giving names. So I request you, I know you are my family priest, if you could go to the land of Vrindavan and name these two boys. So when Gargacharya heard this, he said, sure, that should not be difficult. So he decided to go on the journey. He embarked on the journey to go from Mathura to the land of Vrindavan. But Vasudeva Maharaj had given a specific instruction to Gargacharya. What was this instruction? Vasudeva Maharaj told Gargacharya that you conduct the ceremony of giving name, but don't do this in public. Don't arrange a big mega festival so that everyone gets to know. Do it in isolation. Do it such that no one gets to know. Inside closed quarters, inside the four walls of the house of Nanda Maharaj. Do it inside the four walls, but don't do a public program. Now, we may have this question, why? Why did Vasudeva Maharaj give this instruction to Gargacharya? Well, the reason was, Gargacharya was the family priest of Vasudeva Maharaj. Now, if Gargacharya is going to Vrindavan to name two boys, naturally, this news will spread and Kamsa will get to know. And Kamsa will think, wait a minute, Gargacharya is the family priest of Vasudeva Maharaj. What is he doing in Vrindavan? And why is he naming these two boys who are technically the sons of Nanda Maharaj? So Kamsa may get a doubt that these two sons are being named by Gargacharya, who is the family priest of Vasudeva Maharaj, which means these two sons are also belonging to Vasudeva. So Vasudeva Maharaj thought to himself that if Kamsa gets to know, he may send demons to Vrindavan and cause harm to these two children. So that Kamsa doesn't know about this. There was a ceremony held, but in close quarters, inside the four walls. So Gargacharya went to Vrindavan and he met Nanda Maharaj. And when he met Nanda Maharaj, he told Nanda Maharaj that, I have heard you have two sons. And Nanda Maharaj said, yes. How did he get to know? I do have two sons. And Gargacharya said, I have also heard they don't have names till now. Is it true? And Nanda Maharaj said, that is also correct. I have not named them yet. So Gargacharya said, if you so permit, can I name these two sons? So when Nanda Maharaj heard this, he said, sure enough, you are so famous, because Gargacharya was very famous, not just in Mathura, but throughout. So when he has personally come to Vrindavan, there was no way Nanda Maharaj could refuse this offer of naming his two children. So Gargacharya went inside the house and the day was decided when the naming was about to be done. But now Nanda Maharaj is also very witty. Nanda Maharaj decided to test Gargacharya. Now just imagine, Gargacharya is coming to name his two children, but Nanda Maharaj takes that opportunity to test Gargacharya to see how proficient Gargacharya is. And Nanda Maharaj, what he does is he places these two children on the lap of Maya Yashoda and Rohini Maya. One child on the lap of Yashoda Maya, another child on the lap of Rohini Maya. And Nanda Maharaj tells Gargacharya that, oh Gargacharya, the children are there in the lap of their respective mother. Now is the time when you should be naming these two children. So, oh Gargacharya, without wasting much time, please name these two children who are sitting on the lap of their respective mothers. Now, when Gargacharya heard this, Gargacharya immediately started smiling and laughing. Why? Because when he saw these two children, Gargacharya, he says, I am he Rohini Putro. Gargacharya says, oh, he is Rohini Putra. He is the son of Rohini. What Nanda Maharaj had done is he had placed Balram on the lap of Yashoda and Krishna on the lap of Rohini to check how proficient Gargacharya is. On purpose, both the children were swapped to different mothers. But Gargacharya, he exactly knew this. So he says, I am he Rohini Putro. Oh, he is Rohini Putra. Even though he's on the lap of Maya Yashoda, he is not Yashoda Nandan. He is Rohini Nandan. And Balaram is given the name as Balaram. Rohini Nandan is given the name as Balaram. And now, when the time comes to name Yashoda Nandan, Gargacharya, without a second thought, he says, this child will attract all the three worlds for time to come. And that is why his name should be Krishna. Because Krishna, Akarshayati, Sarvam Akarshayati iti Shri Krishna. That personality who has the ability to attract everyone of all the three worlds is called as Krishna. Sarvam Akarshati iti Shri Krishna. Krishna is like a magnet and we are like the iron filings. The iron filings cannot resist when they are in the close proximity of the magnet. The magnet just pulls the iron filings. Similarly, Krishna is so glorious and so beautiful that all of us are magnetized by his beauty. So in this way, we find Gargacharya, who is the family priest of Vasudeva Maharaj, ends up in Vrindavan and he names these two children as Krishna and Balaram. And now Krishna and Balaram are named and now they're very small. And because they are small, they perform various sweet baby pastimes. And at one point, our Acharyas very beautifully described that, as we know, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya were living in a place called as Nanda Gram. Gram means a village and Nanda means Nanda Maharaj. So that village where Nanda Maharaj stayed is called as Nanda Gram. So when the Vrajavasis and Nanda and Yashoda, along with Sri Krishna, when they moved to Nanda Gram, at that time Nanda Maharaj also dug a very big water body, a very big sarovar. See, we see in Vrindavan, this small water bodies, they're called as poker, like Pili poker. It's a small water body. Little bigger water body is called as Kund, Radha Kund, Sham Kund, Apsara Kund, Brahmar Kund, Gopi Kund, etc. Gauri Kund. So little bigger water body are called as Kund. So small water body is called poker, little big water body is called as Kund. But the biggest water body in the land of Vrindavan is called as Sarovar. Like we have Prem Sarovar, Kusum Sarovar, etc. They are the largest water bodies in this land of Vrindavan. So Nanda Maharaj, who was there in Nandagram, he dug a big Sarovar. Why? So that he could take baths. All the Brajavasis could take baths. Because we find in those days, there was no shower. There was no concept of a jacuzzi or hot water spring bath. There was nothing like this. So they would take bath the traditional way. They would take bath in the well or the river. So Nanda Maharaj dug this big Sarovar and this was called as Nanda Sarovar. And the Brajavasis and Nanda Maharaj, they would all take bath in this Nanda Sarovar. And it is said that this Sarovar was so huge that on the other side of the Sarovar, Vrishabhanu Maharaj and Kirtida Maya, the parents of Srimati Radharani, they would take bath. So we could just imagine how humongous this water body was, Nanda Sarovar. So when Krishna would take bath on this side and Radharani would take bath on that side, there would be beautiful pastime. So much so that Krishna, who is so naughty, like a submarine, he would go underwater. And Radharani also, like a submarine, would go underwater. And they would both meet in the center of Nanda Sarovar and they would have beautiful water pastimes. So now, in this place where the Brajavasis would take bath, one day, Maya Yashoda, she, instead of preparing pakodas and dal and rice and sabjis, she was preparing fried items. I know it's the wrong day to give examples like pakoda and dal, rice, etc. Our stomach was already hungry, and after naming these dishes, I think the hunger would have just gone way higher. But please bear with me. Maya Yashoda, who generally would make such beautiful, tasty dishes, she was not making these dishes today, but she was making fried items. So Krishna was very curious. You see, children are so curious. And the origin for all the curious nature is Shri Krishna. So he went to Maya and said, Maya, he was pulling the pallu and said, Maya, why are you making all fried dishes? And why are you not making the normal preparations that you make? So when Maya Yashoda heard this, she said, Oh Lala, oh Krishna, oh Kanaiya, it is because your father, Nanda Maharaj, he is going on a pilgrimage. And because he is going on a pilgrimage, fried items, generally we see they don't get spoiled. So Maya Yashoda was making fried items so that Nanda Maharaj can have something on his way. But chapati or sabjis, etc., especially sabjis and dal, we find over a period of time they get spoiled. So when Krishna got to know that his father was traveling for a pilgrimage, and this is the reason Maya Yashoda was making fried items, Krishna had a follow-up question. Krishna is very curious. One answer doesn't suffice. He just asks multiple questions. So he says, Maya Yashoda, oh Maya, you said father is going on a pilgrimage. Where is he going? Which place is he going? And when Maya Yashoda heard this, she said that, oh Lala, Nanda Maharaj is going to Prayag. He's going to Prayagraj, the king of all holy places. We see Prayag is very auspicious. That's the place where the Triveni Sangam is present. Ganga, Jamuna, and of course now the invisible Saraswati, they all converge in Prayag. So Nanda Maharaj was going to Prayag as a holy pilgrimage. So now Krishna, when he got this answer, he went to Nanda Baba and said, Baba, I heard from Maya that you are going to pilgrimage to Prayag. Is it true? And Nanda Maharaj said, yes, Krishna, I am going on a pilgrimage. I am going tomorrow morning. So when Krishna heard this, Krishna didn't say anything. The next day morning, Nanda Maharaj got up and he went to Nanda Sarovar to take his bath, the normal routine that he would follow. He went to Nanda Sarovar to take a bath. But now when he went to take a bath, he saw something very strange. He had never seen this before. On the other side of Nanda Sarovar, he saw a very huge, humongous, giant, a personality was standing. And he was laughing and smiling and he was rolling on the dust of Vrindavan. So Nanda Maharaj, who was the king, he went to this person and said, who are you? I have never seen you before. Will you help me with your name? What is your name? And this person said, oh Baba, oh Nanda Maharaj, I am Prayag. So Nanda Maharaj said, Prayag? I have not heard anyone by the name Prayag. And he said, no, I am not from here. I am Prayagraj. I am Prayagraj personified, the king of all holy places. So Nanda Maharaj was perplexed. He said, Prayagraj, what are you doing here in the land of Vrindavan? And Prayagraj, he said, oh Nanda Baba, you know people come to Prayag to deposit all their sins. They take a couple of dips and all their sins are deposited. So all their sins comes on to me, but where will I go to purify myself? They come to me to purify, but where will I go to purify myself? So Nanda Maharaj was hearing and said, so how did you land up in this place of Vrindavan? So Prayagraj said, oh Nanda Baba, every year on this particular day, I come to this land of Vrindavan and bathe in Nanda Sarovar to purify myself. Because throughout the year, everyone comes to me to get purified. But on this day, I personally come here to get myself purified. So Nanda Maharaj, when he heard this, he was completely perplexed. He had never heard about this before. And then again on the opposite side, he saw a few ladies were standing dressed in white. So Nanda Maharaj approached and said, who are you? And they said, oh Baba, I am Ganga. Another lady, she said, I am Narmada. Another said, I am Kaveri. Another said, I am Narmada. So Nanda Maharaj said, who are you all? I have never heard these personalities in Vrindavan. They said, no, we are not from Vrindavan. We are the water bodies personified. I am Ganga personified. I am Kaveri personified. I am Narmada personified. I am these rivers personified. They all come to us to purify themselves. But on this day, O Nanda Baba, we come personally to the land of Vrindavan to get ourselves purified. So when Nanda Maharaj heard all these things, he took bath in Nanda Sarovar and went back home to his house. And at that time, our Krishna had gotten up. Krishna was very small. He was still in the bed. He was stretching his arms and stretching his legs like small children do. And Krishna looked at Nanda Baba and said, Baba, you didn't go to Prayag. I thought you were to leave for Prayag early morning. But didn't you go to Prayag? And Nanda Maharaj, when he heard this, he said, Krishna, what is the need to go to Prayag? When Prayagraj himself is coming to Vrindavan to get purified, and when Ganga and Narmada and Kaveri, holy rivers, are coming to the land of Vrindavan to get themselves purified, why should I go to Prayag? I can as well take bath in this Nanda Sarovar, which is more pure than Prayag themselves. So when Krishna heard this, Krishna smiled. Krishna didn't say anything. Dear devotees, that day when Prayagraj and Ganga and other rivers come to take bath in Nanda Sarovar to get purified is the day of Akshay Tritiya. Akshay Tritiya is that day when these rivers come to the land of Vrindavan and get purified. And because they got purified in this Sarovar, from that day onwards, Nanda Sarovar was no more called as Nanda Sarovar, but it was called as Pavan Sarovar, because Pavan means pure. This Sarovar is so pure that it purified Prayagraj and it also purified Ganga and other water bodies. And we find this is that historic place where Shripad Sanatan Goswami did bhajan throughout his life. So we see that this land of Vrindavan, it embraces anyone who comes. Anyone, regardless of their qualification, regardless of their caste, creed, etc. Anyone who come to this land of Vrindavan with a sincere heart, the land of Vrindavan embraces them. And where is Vrindavan getting this quality of accepting everyone? It is coming from Sri Krishna. Because Krishna has this quality to embrace everyone. Anyone who sincerely approaches Krishna. On this day of Janmashtami, whoever we are, wherever we are from, male, female, Indian, American, living in Seattle, living in Charlotte, a small child, adult, or an old age person, whoever we are, if we sincerely go to Krishna on this particular day and beg Krishna that, my dear Lord, I do not have qualifications, but if you feel inspired and if you accept me, then the purpose of celebrating this Janmashtami is complete, my dear Lord. The Lord is only looking for someone who's very sincere and a straightforward heart. Just like Vrindavan accepts everyone, Krishna also accepts anyone and everyone. And we find time and again Krishna, he shows this personally through his life. Another time, Krishna was there with Maya Yashoda on the banks of Jamuna. And Maya Yashoda, in the evening time, we see, like we have Ganga Aarti in Kashi and other places. Similarly, we find in Vrindavan there is Yamuna Aarti. They perform Yamuna Aarti. So Maya Yashoda, she in the evening she went to Yamuna with Krishna. Krishna was very small. She took Krishna also. She held the hand of Krishna and she took Krishna to the banks of Yamuna. And Maya Yashoda was offering ghee lamps. We see we offer ghee lamps during the month of Damodar, during the month of Kartik. So Maya Yashoda was offering ghee lamps to Yamuna, and she was placing these ghee lamps in the river Yamuna. But as and when she was placing, she was seeing that she was placing a ghee lamp, but eventually these ghee lamps were disappearing. She would place about 5 ghee lamps, and about a few minutes later, she would find only 2 ghee lamps are present. So these ghee lamps were disappearing all of a sudden. So Maya Yashoda was perplexed, and she looked at Krishna. And when she looked at Krishna, Krishna was having all the ghee lamps in his hand. Those ghee lamps that Maya Yashoda had offered to Yamuna, Krishna was having it in his hand. So Maya Yashoda looked at Krishna and said, Lala, what are you doing? These ghee lamps are for Yamuna. Why are you taking all the ghee lamps? And when Krishna heard this, Krishna said, oh Maya, these ghee lamps are drowning. Don't you see there in Yamuna, they don't know how to swim. So they are drowning. So naturally they're floating towards me. And anyone who floats towards me, who comes towards me, how can I reject them, oh Maya? They are drowning in the waters of Yamuna, but voluntarily they're coming to me. So it is my duty to accept them. When Maya Yashoda heard this, she started laughing and she said, Krishna, it doesn't work this way. What are you saying drowning? They are ghee lamps. They are not personalities, they're ghee lamps. So there is no question of drowning. Krishna said, Maya, I don't know all those things. I know that in Yamuna, in water bodies, if someone doesn't know to swim, they drown. And these ghee lamps don't know to swim, which means they are drowning. And because they are drowning, it is my responsibility to accept them, to give them shelter, because they're also voluntarily coming towards me. So when Maya Yashoda hears this, Maya Yashoda smiles. She doesn't say anything. But Krishna is actually teaching Siddhanta. Through this pastime, he's teaching Siddhanta. What is that Siddhanta? Just like the ghee lamps are drowning in the waters of Yamuna, we are also drowning in this water of repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. We also don't know to swim. The ghee lamps also don't know to swim. But the ghee lamps are voluntarily going towards Krishna, and Krishna is embracing them. Similarly, dear devotees, on this day of Janmashtami, if we voluntarily go towards Krishna, regardless of our qualification, regardless of our past, if we voluntarily go towards Krishna, Krishna will accept and embrace us just like he accepted and embraced those small ghee lamps. Just like the land of Vrindavan accepted Prayagraj and Ganga and other water bodies, similarly on this day of Janmashtami, Krishna will accept all of us. Krishna doesn't look for any of the material qualities. Vyadasya charanam dhruvasya chavayor vidya gajendrasya ka kubjaya kimunama rupamadhikam kim tat sudham no dhanam vamsha kim vidurasya yadavapater ograsya ka paurusha bhaktya tushyati kevalam nacha gunair bhaktim priyo madhava. Srila Rupa Goswami says, what is Krishna looking out for? On this day of Janmashtami, it is of paramount importance to contemplate the Lord whom we are worshipping, the Lord whose Abhishek we just did, and the Lord whose Aarti we are going to do in some hours. What is that Lord looking out for? And Srila Rupa Goswami very beautifully says, Vyadasya charanam dhruvasya chavayor. If Dhruva Maharaj is to be considered, or Prahlad Maharaj is to be considered, how did they get Krishna? How did they get Vishnu? They were only 5-year-old. They were so small in age, which means if Krishna is considering age as the criteria, Dhruva and Prahlad would have never got Krishna Prem, but they still got Krishna Prem. which means Krishna doesn't look for our age. Whatever our age is, we can still perform bhakti and get love of Godhead. It is never too late to start bhakti, dear devotees. Even if you are 40, 50 or 60, never too late to start bhakti. Second example, Vidya Gajendrasya ka. If intelligence is to be considered, how is it that an animal like Gajendra got Krishna Prem? How did Krishna come for him leaving the spiritual world? Because we find animals are not intelligent. Especially in the purports of Prabhupada, we find elephant is not considered a very intelligent animal. But still the elephant got Krishna, which means Krishna is not even looking for the intelligence. We may be a PhD or we may be a 10th fail. Krishna doesn't look for any of these things, which means Krishna doesn't look for age. Krishna doesn't look for intelligence. Third, Kubjaya Kimu Nama Rupam Adhikam. Krishna doesn't look for beauty. Because if Krishna is looking for beauty, how is it that Krishna gave his mercy to Kubja? We see Kubja is a hunched back. But even though she's hunched back and not very beautiful, Krishna still showered his mercy on Kubja, which means Rupa Goswami says Krishna is not even looking for beauty. Krishna is not looking for age. Krishna is not looking for intelligence. Krishna is not looking for beauty. And now comes the most important. Kim tat sudamno dhanam. If wealth is to be considered, if our money is to be considered, if our dollars, how much dollars is there in the bank account, if this is the criteria, how is it that Sudama got Krishna's mercy? We see Sudama was a pauper. Sudama is the best example from rags to riches. He was in complete rags, but because he approached Krishna, Krishna showered his mercy and he went from rags to riches. Best example of rags to riches story, Sudama. But initially we find he didn't have money, but Krishna still showered his mercy, which means Krishna doesn't even look at our wealth. He doesn't even look at our money. Fifth example, Vamsha kim vidurasya yadava pater ugrasya ka paurusha. If family lineage is to be considered, whether someone is a Brahmana, someone is a Kshatriya, someone is a Shudra, if family lineage is to be considered, how is it that Vidura, who is a Dasi Putra, he got Krishna's mercy? We see Vidura was a Dasi Putra, but Krishna still didn't hold back to shower his mercy, which means Krishna doesn't even see the family lineage. Which means, to reiterate, Krishna doesn't see age, Krishna doesn't see intelligence, Krishna doesn't see beauty, Krishna doesn't see wealth, and Krishna doesn't see family lineage. Which means the question arises, what is Krishna looking at? What is Krishna wanting from us on this day of Krishna Janmashtami? And Rupa Goswami says, Bhaktim Priyo Madhava. Bhaktim Priyo Madhava. It is only bhakti that Madhava is looking for. Krishna is looking for sincerity in the heart. Krishna wants all of us to love him unconditionally. Just like we love our family members with no strings attached. We love our family members unconditionally. Similarly, the perfection of human life, the perfection of celebrating this Janmashtami is when we can learn this art of loving Krishna selflessly. Srila Rupa Goswami says, this is the only purpose Krishna comes down to establish this principle of bhakti. No material qualities can attract Krishna. We may be a pauper or we may be a Bill Gates. Till the time we are not performing bhakti, Krishna is not pleased. So this point of bhakti is time and again reiterated. We find even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna in the 9th chapter, text 26, he says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tad aham bhakti uparitam asnamit prayatatmanaha. In one verse, Krishna uses bhakti 2 times. Now, dear devotees, we say that generally no author will use the same word in one sentence 2 times. If he uses the same word in one sentence twice, it is nothing but redundancy, which means he is not prolific enough to express himself. He is not good enough to express himself. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Krishna is using the word bhakti 2 times in one verse to emphasize that it is only bhakti. It is only and only bhakti that attracts my heart. If you offer water with bhakti, I accept it. But if someone offers chappan bhog, but with no bhakti, with no love, Krishna doesn't accept. Krishna is only looking for bhakti in the heart. So because Prayagraj had bhakti in his heart, Krishna decided, as the land of Vrindavan, decided to embrace and accept. Kaveri and Narmada, these rivers, they had bhakti in their heart. So Krishna, like the land of Vrindavan, accepted and embraced. The ghee lamps in the second example, they voluntarily came towards Krishna. They floated their way towards Krishna and Krishna accepted. Which means, dear devotees, on this day of bhakti, there are 2 things that we have to do. First, love Krishna unconditionally, unmotivated, uninterrupted, with no strings attached. Like in Hindi, those who are from India, Indian origin, and who know Hindi, like in India, they say, Bhagavan se mat mango, Bhagavan ko mango. Which means don't ask things from God, ask God himself. Because when you have God himself with you, you will also have the things that the God has. Bhagavan se mat mango, Bhagavan ko mango. Similarly, on this day of Janmashtami, let us not ask material assets from the Lord. Let us not ask dhanam, janam, sundarim. Our principle is na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim. We don't want any material assets, but we want Krishna. That is all that we want on this day of Janmashtami. And second point, let us voluntarily give our hearts toward Krishna. Let us voluntarily decide to make some advancement on this day of Krishna Janmashtami. On the next Janmashtami that comes, we should make sure that we have made some advancement from the previous Janmashtami. We should have some track record. Every Janmashtami, all these festivals are meant so that we can check as to how much advancement we have done. So 2 things. Let us, with full bhakti, with full enthusiasm, give our hearts to Krishna on this day, with no strings attached, like Prayagraj and the other water bodies. And second, let us voluntarily go towards Krishna, just like the ghee lamps did. And this will ensure that we become the recipients of Krishna's loving embrace, like all the Brajavasis did on this day of Janmashtami. Having said this, it is already 9:23 Eastern. I would like to stop here. I wish all the devotees at ISKCON of Charlotte a very, very happy Krishna Janmashtami, and to all the devotees who have also joined us from different parts, wishing everyone a very happy Krishna Janmashtami. May this Janmashtami help us to progress on this path of Krishna Bhakti, and may all of us become the loving recipients of the loving embrace of Sri Krishna and all his dear associates. Having said this, I stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Krishna Janmashtami Maha Utsava Ki Jai. Shri Raghunath's 125th appearance Maha Utsava Ki Jai. ISKCON of Charlotte Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.